All right. Go ahead and have a seat. So, how many of you generally want and even expect people to be honest with you, to tell you the truth? How many of you expect that? That's just something you're going, hey, if no matter who it is, if they are speaking out loud to me, I expect it to be the truth. How many of you expect that? All right. How many of you want and expect your friends or people that you trust to tell you the truth? All right? So that's most of us in the room. I don't really know of anybody who's like, you know what? I wish people would stop being so stinking honest with me. But then on the other hand, how much honesty do you really want? Hey, dude, you got a huge booger in your nose. You want that much honesty? Yes. Okay. How about, girlfriend, when you vocalize, you need to vocalize a little softer because you sound like a wounded yak. You want that much honesty? Yes. How about this? Man, you are acting like a jerk and you need to check your attitude. Yes. You want that kind of honesty? Yes. Now, some of you, I can tell by the way you're saying, yeah, you're thinking, I want to be able to tell people that honestly. We're going to get to that in a minute. But how much honesty do we really want? Many times we get into this mode of thinking of going, I'll be honest as long as it's not going to hurt somebody's feelings, like I'm not going to have to tell them something that they don't want to hear. We're really willing to be honest when we go, Dave, I love your hair, man. Super cool. We're fine doing that. Or, hey, I really like those shoes you're wearing. Or, hey, you did a great job at the concert. Or, man, I've never seen anybody golf as well as you do. We're great with those kinds of honest kinds of things. But what about when it comes to saying something that could make them not feel so good? And even how do we do that? Or, so there's the, we'll be honest as long as it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. Or we take the strategy of, I'm going to be honest so I hurt someone's feelings. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth because I actually think you're a jerk and I don't like you. So I'm going to be honest with you in that way. And is that okay? What should our approach to honesty be? And we've been in this series called What's Love Got to Do with It, where we've been looking at things like what's love got to do with feelings? How does love and feelings go hand in hand? Is it really just an emotion? What's love got to do with judgment? How do we judge people, and how do we allow God to judge us, and those kind of things? And we're going to talk a little bit more about judgment because it has something to do here with this idea of honesty. But honesty is not always as easy and convenient as we want it to be, is it? Okay? We in the right parameters think honesty is real simple. And we would say, yeah, we should always be honest with people. But every one of us in this room has been in a situation where telling the truth would be hard. Would you agree with that? Every one of us. We've all been in situations where maybe somebody asks for it. So, you like my shirt? And it's like, dude, it has a pug on it. How? Oh, is Ryan not here anymore? Oh, Ryan's not here. Ryan has a pug shirt, and I love it. It's great. But and we're forced to whether we're going to be honest or not. And so we need to understand, how can we be honest? What is honesty supposed to do? If we're going to be honest, what is our motive for being honest? So we're going to take a look at some of these things. What's love got to do with honesty? And so, what are some reasons that we should be honest with people? Yeah. Could help them. Okay? Your honesty could help them. What else? Keep them humble and out of trouble. Okay? To let them know kind of where they stand, you know? All right? What else? No other ideas? How? Why honesty might be... What? Compliments. Being honest with someone could build them up, could encourage them. Yeah. Yeah.
If
So almost like to protect them. Okay, so sometimes honesty can protect them. So this morning, we're going to look at a proverb. So if you have a Bible, you can open up your Bible. If you want to look it up on your phone, you can do that. And I just ask you, don't scroll through text, don't answer emails, don't look on Facebook. Right now, just be here. But I want you to be able to see this. We also have it up on the screen. This is Proverbs 27:6. It says, wounds from a sincere friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. And I'm not talking about the sea urchin thing. Not that kind of an enemy. An enemy. It's all right. It's Sunday morning. I know you're slow. I know you know. Wounds from a sincere friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. Right? Now, how might a friend wound you? If they're really your friend, let's think of somebody that in your life you really trust. You know they've got your best at heart. You know, how could something that they say by being honest wound you? Okay, that's an example of it hurting you, but why would that be painful?
Because you trust them and you don't expect them to hurt you because they're your best friend.
But why would it hurt you? You thought so you take it as an insult. You're like, but I'm not wearing any makeup. So sometimes it wounds our pride. It's sort of a thing of going, but this, guys, this is as good as it gets. Right here. I wake up looking like this, right? And when someone doesn't approve of that, they're going to, what else? How can something a friend tells you be painful? But why would that be painful? Not the booger, but them telling you have a booger. Okay. Which creates what? Embarrassment. So sometimes wounds can be embarrassing, which comes back again to, it can be a prideful kind of a thing where it's like, oh man, I really need people to think this about me. And now that you've told me they think something else, that's painful. Anna.
One time, my best friend, I had a pimple on my face, and I knew about it, and she pointed out I had a pimple on my face. I'm like, I know.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. Appreciate that. Okay. Now, how can those wounds, okay, the things that a friend would say to you that do hurt your feelings, and you're just like, how can those be better than kisses? Let's first clarify, what is it talking about where it says kisses from an enemy? What kind of thing are they talking about? Compliments. All right, now, compliments generally feel good. Yes? Okay, Nick. So maybe the compliments are a setup for something, and so truth from a friend is better than that happening, right?
Putting on a
False sense of security. Did you have your hand up?
I did.
They stole it. Okay. So, anybody else? Yeah. They're kissing up to you. Yeah, they're just trying to get on your good side, maybe to use you. All right. So what this is saying is, look, it is better for a friend to tell you the honest truth, which may be painful, which you may not want to hear, than kisses and compliments from an enemy. Now, I know that in my life, there are times I just prefer the compliments, right? And I don't even care who they're coming from. I would rather somebody just tell me what I want to hear. Just make me feel good. Just make me feel secure in myself and all of these things, rather than hear the truth about something that may be wrong with me. The truth about something that I may not be doing very well, or some way that I've hurt somebody. There are times where, no. Bring back the people who are just going to tell me what they like about me. the things that I'm doing right, the things that they're going to point out that are going to build me up. So let's look at this idea of wounds from a friend and how this works, because my hope this morning is that every one of us in this room would be open to being hurt by your friend, which is weird, right? I hope today that when we leave, we walk out of here going, man, I hope one of my friends offends me. Man, I hope that the very next friend that I talk to totally insults me and tells me something that I need to fix or change about myself, right? Which is odd. So this idea of wounds from a friend. How many of you have seen this picture or a variation of this picture? Okay, a shepherd holding a sheep, or sometimes it's Jesus, a picture of Jesus holding a sheep. And we look at this and we go, oh, look at that. How special. That shepherd is just holding that sheep, giving that sheep a little sheepy back ride, walking along. You know, maybe that sheep has been walking for a while and he's tired and he's like, oh, my legs hurt bad. Right? And so Jesus scoops him up and says, hey, don't worry, little lamb. Puts him on his shoulders, walks around with him, gives him a little break, finally puts him down, says, you doing okay? It's like, thanks, JC. And keeps walking. We would love for that to be what this picture is all about. This picture is a very violent picture. The reason that this shepherd is carrying this lamb is because this lamb has a broken leg. The reason this lamb has a broken leg is because the shepherd broke the lamb's leg. See, this lamb was continually wandering off, walking off into dangerous situations, potentially falling down cliffs, walking into areas where animals are going to attack it and it's going to be eaten. And the shepherd would continually try and bring it back and say, hey, sheep. And the sheep wouldn't listen, and it was continually in danger for its life. And one of the things that shepherds will do, because they love their sheep so much, is they will do whatever is necessary in order to correct behavior for the sheep's benefit. Not out of anger. The shepherd didn't go, oh, you stupid sheep, snap. That's not the way this works. The shepherd loves the sheep so much that he's willing to even cause pain in order for that correction to be made. See, what happens is the shepherd breaks the sheep's leg. Does not continue to allow the sheep to walk on its broken leg, because that would be incredibly damaging and unfair. He breaks the sheep's leg and then picks the lamb up, puts it on his shoulders, and carries that sheep until the leg is healed. Okay, how long does it take for a bone to heal? Those of you who have had broken bones? Weeks, sometimes months, right? So he carries this sheep day after day after day, lays the sheep down at night, picks the sheep back up in the morning, and continues to walk with it with the sheep around his neck. What do you think happens to the relationship between that shepherd and that sheep during that time? Incredible trust is built. There's an understanding by the sheep that though there was pain inflicted, imagine how confused the sheep must be at first. Like, snap, ow! Oh, cool, I don't have to walk, right? Dude, why'd you snap my leg? What was that about? Over time, there is this bond that is created between the shepherd and the sheep that by the time the bone is healed and the shepherd puts the sheep down to be able to walk, that sheep never leaves the shepherd's side again. Because he knows that even though there's pain, even though it was a hard lesson to learn, that the shepherd has the very best in mind for the sheep. And there is a bond and there is a trust. See, you would think that, like our minds, the way our minds work is, man, if somebody broke my leg, I'd get out of there as quick as I could, right? He puts me down, it's like, you know, leave, bye, I'm out of here. That's the way our brain processes it. And yet, we need to understand that when there is that care, if we are willing to understand the care that someone would take to hurt us for the sake, remember, we're talking wounds from a friend. We're not talking about somebody at school who called you ugly. We're not talking about somebody who doesn't care about you, just telling you dress like a dork or you act like this or that. We're talking about somebody, wounds from a friend, somebody who cares for you. Are we willing to look at that and go, you know what? That hurt. I didn't appreciate it at first. But can't we see how there could be a deeper trust that's built of knowing that if I'm in some way acting in a way that is not Christ-like, that is not kind, that is not compassionate, that the people in my life who really care, who really love me, aren't going to let me just continue in that behavior. For my sake, in my life, they may need to wound me in order for me to see the truth, in order for me to actually be healed. So that I don't just continue in a way that is going to be destructive. Paul wrote a letter to the people in Galatia, which was a city, and he said this, "Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin," sin is a way that you live against God, okay? Whatever it may be, some way that you live against God. If you're overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person come back onto the right path. Now, does breaking a sheep's leg feel gentle or humble? It doesn't. But how about scooping up that sheep and carrying him until he's healed? That's the gentle and humble part. So we are called to come alongside one another and gently and humbly. It doesn't mean, just like ignore it, just pretend like it doesn't happen, just ignore things that they may be doing that aren't okay, just because we think that that's what honesty and that's what being gentle and being humble is really about. Be gentle and humble and help that person come back onto the right path. Be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself. So here it's giving a caution that as you come alongside somebody who is struggling and having a hard time, be careful that you yourself don't get sucked into that lifestyle. Don't get sucked into the things that are causing them to mess up. But we are called to come alongside one another in honesty. If we're just going to come alongside them and be like, okay, yep, I'm going to be with you as you continue to make all these bad decisions because I don't want to have to tell you that you're making bad decisions. Do you think that's the friend that they're talking about? Who would not tell the person the truth just so they don't hurt their feelings? That's not a friend. And I want to tell you this morning that if you're here and maybe you've got somebody in mind that you're going, man, I'm probably a person who should speak some truth into their life, and you're not, you ought to consider how much of a friend you are actually being. As well as if you're caught up in something that you know you shouldn't be doing, and all the people around you are just kind of nodding and smiling, just letting you continue, you seriously need to evaluate what kind of friends they are. Because a friend is going to come alongside you gently and humbly and break your leg. And then, in gentleness and humility, walk with you and help you back to the right path. In James was the brother of Jesus. And this is what he said, "My dear brothers and sisters, if someone among you wanders away from the truth and is brought back, you can be sure that whoever brings a sinner," someone who's living against God, "whoever brings a sinner back will save that person from death and bring about the forgiveness of many sins." See, we get really wrapped up in going, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Let's put it in perspective. What if it was hurt their feelings or let them drive their car off a cliff? What would you do? Hurt their feelings. You are a bad driver. Get out of the car. Oh, that really hurts my feelings. I don't care. Right? That's clear. We would just be like, I don't care whether your feelings are hurt. You are going to drive off a cliff. Stop that. Put this in perspective. We are talking about life and death. We are talking about a person who is either going to follow down a path that God is going to lead them to life, to joy and happiness and peace and contentment, and here it says forgiveness. Or we step back and we go, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. And instead, they go down a path where they're searching with all their might for joy and hope and peace and forgiveness, and they never find it. They find substitutions for it. They find it in drinking. They find it in relationships. They find it in whatever it may be. And over and over and over again, they come back and it's empty. Doesn't mean anything to them. It didn't do anything for them. It just kind of screwed their life up a little bit more. Are you willing to wound a friend with the truth and walk alongside them so that they can be led to life? Are you willing? And it's hard. We don't want to. And it's not like when you get older, it's easier. I don't want to hurt my friends' feelings any more than you do. But are we willing to do it so that we can speak life? But honest wounding in love, when it's done in love, can help prevent future injury. Consider it that way. Hey, by speaking the truth to you today, I'm hopefully, prayerfully, if I'm doing this in love, going to keep you from getting hurt in the future or keep this from getting worse. The idea of wounding to build up. Somebody said earlier to encourage somebody. That's a reason to be honest, right? Later in Proverbs 27, it says, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. Have you ever seen a piece of metal being sharpened? And I'm not talking about like the little, a little knife that you sort of just sharpen, although on a micro level, something severe is happening. But when you're sharpening an axe or a saw blade, they put it on that grinder thing, and they go like this, and sparks are flying. It is not pretty. If that metal could have a voice in that moment, it's going, ah! It takes something hard. It takes something hard to sharpen something hard. It takes something hard to sharpen something hard. We can sharpen one another. We can encourage one another in ways that will speak truth into their life to bring them to a closer relationship with God or an understanding of who God is. And if you're not doing that, if you're the friend who could sharpen one of your friends and you're not doing that, who is? We need to consider that. If you're not saying something in love, in truth, to your friend to sharpen them, who is? Are you just hoping somebody else will do it? You're just hoping somebody else will call that friend and encourage them? Are you just hoping that somebody else will invite that person over to have lunch with you? Are you just hoping that somebody will tell that person they got a booger in their nose? It takes something hard to sharpen something that's hard. So if this is what a friend looks like, if a friend in Proverbs, it's saying better wounds from a friend. If a friend is someone who is supposed to speak truth to you even if it's going to hurt, even if it's going to offend, and you're trusting on that friendship to speak love to them, then what does an enemy look like? We've already said, the enemy in that proverb, better wounds from a friend than many kisses from an enemy. What does an enemy look like? Describe that person to me. What would they be doing in these in these situations? Stroking their mustache? Probably not, because a lot of times if they're really our arch enemy, okay, it may not always be so obvious. Okay, Nick.
Like they would just like even if you're going down like you're on a path, like you're doing something wrong, they would just stand to the side and just like keep encouraging you and keep like saying you're doing right.
Okay, so just allow you to continue down that path. Yeah. Yeah.
They like indirectly applaud you and like get other people to do as well, like when they don't like you.
Yeah. One of the saddest things that I've seen, and I saw it when I was in school, I've seen it since I've been out, is when somebody's mocking somebody. And when you mock somebody, it's that insincere, like, oh yeah, that dress looks really nice. Oh my gosh. Right? And they just let that person just go about their business. How many of you have seen Wicked? You know, when she gives her the black hat, you know, and she's like, hey, black's the new pink, right? It's so insincere. In a situation where truth needs to be spoken, even truth that'll hurt because it'll help, an enemy is going to remain silent. An enemy is going to encourage continuing that behavior. An enemy is going to tell you you're doing great. Hey, don't worry about it. In fact, an enemy is going to say anybody who would tell you different, they're the enemy. They don't have your best in mind. They're not looking to bring you life. They're looking for something. Maybe it's just to mock you. Maybe it's to build themselves up, whatever it is. But in that context, consider the friendships that you have. Are they friends or are they enemies? The friendships that you have, are you a friend or are you an enemy? Sometimes we want to be friends. We want to be a friend of that person and we act like enemies. We don't have anything against that person. We like them. It's like, oh no, she's great. She's awesome. Oh yeah, he and I, we have a great time together. No, he's a totally cool guy. Yeah, but why have you said anything to her about this behavior and what she's been doing? Well, no, she wouldn't be my friend anymore. Friend or enemy? These opportunities that we have to speak truth. Are you being a friend or an enemy? Are you speaking the truth that will lead them to life, or are you just letting them continue on down that path? See, and here's what can happen when we choose to speak. Then we will no longer be immature like children. See, just saying the nice thing is something you'd expect from a child. Or being mean just to be mean is what you'd expect from a child. But if we're willing to speak the truth in love, then we will no longer be immature like children. We won't be tossed and blown about by every wind of new teaching. We will not be influenced when people try to trick us with lies so clever that they sound like the truth. Do you have relationships where you know that the person is being truthful, and if anybody were to try and tell you different, you'd be able to go, no. And you would be able to understand, hey, this person's trying to trick me. This person's not speaking the truth. This person isn't actually being a friend to me. Is that what your friendships are like, where you can discern this is a friend, this is not a friend? This is a friend, tells me the things that I don't want to hear, tells me that my behavior or the things that I'm getting involved with, the things that I'm doing are not okay, and they still love me. They're willing to walk with me. This person tells me I'm great, tells me I'm cool, tells me I'm all the things that I want to be. And are you able to tell the difference between the two? If you're not able to tell the difference between the two, they're probably not friends. If you can't tell the difference between the two in terms of people that you are authentically friends with and those that you're just kind of telling them what they want to hear, you're probably not being a friend. Honesty is the key to that. Speaking the truth in love is how we become mature. It's how you grow in your relationships. My wife is my closest friend. Not because we never fight, sometimes because we always fight. My wife is my closest friend because I know that inside, her desire for me is life. And she's going to tell me when there are the things in my life where I'm not measuring up. Not to her standard, to God's standard. And a lot of times that hurts. A lot of times it ticks me off. A lot of times I don't want to hear it. I just want her to just tell me that I'm a good husband. I count on her to do that, and it's not pleasant. And yet I know that she's my friend. And our love, our relationship is mature because of that. Because there is that truth. And receiving truth in love is how we get strong. It's how we get sharp. When people come to us and they tell us what we need to know, it can build us up. So where do we go from here? Wounding in love. It has to begin with us. This popular verse that many people use as evidence of don't judge says this: why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own eye? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help get that speck out of your own eye, when you can't see the log in your eye? Hypocrites. And a lot of people stop right there. They go, see? Don't judge me. We're not supposed to tell people what's wrong with them. We're not supposed to tell them if they're doing something that isn't okay. Just stop right there. And because that's what we want to hear. You stop right there, and that's a statement of the enemy, who's not going to tell you anything. It continues. First, get rid of the log in your eye. If we are going to speak the truth in love, it has to begin with us. It has to begin with us. If I'm smoking a cigarette and I walk up to a guy smoking a cigarette and go, man, you're a real idiot for smoking that cigarette. Do you know that thing's gonna kill you? Man, what a doofus you are. I can't believe you're smoking a cigarette. What a dork. How much credibility am I gonna have?
So much.
It has to begin with us. And it doesn't mean that we're gonna be perfect. It doesn't mean that you're going to never have any issues. But taking care of the log in our eye, in our own eyes, helps us avoid selfish judgment. So it's not that we're not supposed to judge one another. We are supposed to judge one another. We're supposed to do it in love. We're supposed to do it in gentleness. We're supposed to do it in humility. But the only way we can do that is if we allow God to evaluate our lives and do it first in us. It has to begin with us. And it'll help us understand how we should speak the truth in love. I may have the best intentions in the world, but if I am just blindly trying to help, it's like me going, hey, come here, man, let me try and get that speck out of your eye. Come here. If we will allow God to evaluate our hearts, if we will stop and consider, God, what do you want to do in this situation? It will help us be able to know how to speak love into a person's life. Ephesians helps us with this. Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. This is a far-reaching verse. This verse can apply to all kinds of things. But one of the situations it'll apply to is when you have to say something hard to a friend. When you have to say something hard, something that they're not going to want to hear, this will help us consider, how should I say it? What should my approach be? And like I said in the beginning, how much honesty from a friend are you open to? How much honesty are you as a person open to from friends that you trust? Because receiving wounds in love, being able to receive a wound, requires that you trust the person who's wounding you. Now, does that mean that you have to be best friends with a person in order to receive a helpful, loving wound from them? Nope. Here's an example. Doctors. If you needed help, would you let a doctor hurt you? Of course you would. Hey, doc, cut me open. Here, doc, burn this off of me. Here, doc, hit me on the knee with this little hammer, right? Whatever it may be. Why do we let doctors hurt us?
Because we trust that they know what they're doing.
We trust them. We trust that syringe and needle that he is going to punch into our arm or wherever is going to help, and that he's not doing it maliciously. He's not doing it just to make us scream. We trust his motives. Are the people in your life trustworthy? Not because they tell you what you want to hear. Not because they've never offended you. Are they trustworthy because they'll hurt you in love? Can you trust that? Sometimes we don't trust a perspective that we should. Sometimes we don't trust a perspective that we should. You're wounded badly. Let's say you got a big gash on your head. Okay? And somebody that loves you, that you would trust, that wants life for you, says, dude, you got to get that taken care of. It's bad. I can see your skull. I mean, it's just a gaping wound. It's gushing. And people run out the door and puke. And because we don't want to hear that, because we don't want it to be a big deal, we go, who cares? And we don't trust the perspective of somebody who's able to see. We're not willing to look in a mirror. We're not willing to check it out. We just, on our own basis, don't think it's a big deal, so it's not a big deal. And sometimes we trust perspectives that we shouldn't, because we have surrounded ourselves with people who say, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You can get involved with whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. And you have surrounded yourself with people who tell you that. And so you end up trusting a perspective that you shouldn't. You end up believing the people around you who are looking at all kinds of other things instead of your wound. Instead of the hurt in your life, they're not looking at you. They're looking at all the other things. They're looking at themselves. And you end up trusting a perspective that you shouldn't. So, I want to challenge you with this. What is a relationship in your life that maybe you need to do some wounding? Now, you didn't hear me say today, go out and just be brutal with everybody you know. Speaking, let me tell you that Jeff said I should tell you the truth about this. I haven't said that. I've said first it's got to begin with us. So you need to prayerfully consider your own life and the voice that you have in somebody else's life. And from there, what is something in someone's life, in a relationship that you have, that you need to speak the truth in love, in compassion, but you've been holding back because you didn't want to be that one voice who said, you need to knock it off. And then for yourself, how open are you to being wounded? Who are the people in your life that you need to be honest with you? And maybe you need to ask them to be. I have had close relationships with people, and I have gone to them and I have said, I need you to tell me the truth. What do you see in this area of my life? What do you see in this situation? I need you to tell me if you see things, see ways that I'm acting as a husband or a father or a friend. I need you to tell me the truth. And I want to challenge you to go to those people and invite that kind of honesty. Somebody may come up to you without you giving them permission, but are you willing to evaluate and go, you know what? I know this person loves me. I know they're not saying this just to hurt me, just to be a jerk. Are you willing to control that urge to be offended and rage and say you're not my friend anymore and consider, hey, they love me? So would you bow your heads with me?